The biggest problem is the UN and those big international institutions. They have zero resolutions against China. When COVID happened, the first thing they did is to condemn every nation that stopped the flux of Chinese people. This is not a conspiracy, but once you have the big institutions like the WEF, like the UN, which are centralized, then you control basically the media and the legitimacy, and you start impose international law, which allows for mass migration because the international law is used disproportionately against democracy than it is used against dictatorship. So big international organizations are infiltrated. That's how they operate.
This is why, it made sense. The United Nations has had more declarations against Israel than all the other countries combined,
China
which,
is zero with concentration camps.
right. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good point. Which is basically, this shows how they, I mean, at the end of the day, we need a table for people to be able to gather around and speak. This is why United Nations is still somewhat relevant. But this is why we are also finding competing methods of countries negotiating compared to the UN, because the UN is backed by United States. And if you are using America's might and budget to then come and condemn its major ally in the Middle East more than any other country, then you got to go. Like, we need to find another framework other than the UN model to. I mean, by the way, guys, there is no equality here. This is all about might. Like, Israel gets to live because it has a powerful army. United States gets to decide the rules, the international rules, because it has the army. So we might want to be acting all virtuous and saying like, oh, international law, human rights. None of this has any meaning unless there's an army backing it, right? Like, international law doesn't become a thing because we all hold hands and we just say, sing kumbaya or something, and all of a sudden it's not like part of nature. It's not like written within the fabric of the universe. These are things that need to be enforced, and the people who enforce them are paying for it to be enforced. So it has to make sense for them. Like, it has to be in the benefit of the country's army that is basically paying the bill, right? An American, like, as an American taxpayer, you should be pissed off. Like, what the hell? Like, we are, like, nobody is contributing as much as us, and then you go and condemn our main ally. Like, I mean, I know a lot of Americans don't see it that way, but they should. um like, we might say like, oh, you should just do it because it's a good thing, but who says that? Like, who says this is a good thing? If your country is paying for it, then these international standards and these human rights or international laws, your country should benefit more from this framework being introduced than other countries, because you're enforcing it, you're maintaining it, and others are not. So unless other countries participate in maintaining the global order that we're in, then America should benefit from it more than other people because they're paying for it. And that's not how it's working right now. It made sense for America to support this international order after World War II, because even though America was the world's superpower, it was so reliant on European power, for example, and other countries. But right now, the distance between America's power and other countries has become so wide, and Europeans have spent so much money on welfare and not enough on their security, because they were just leeching off of America's ability to provide security for them, that they just spent all of that money on giving free education and free healthcare and a very big safety net. And they were just basically just riding this wave, letting America do all the work. That America's distance, and also that slowed down their economy. So now, even if they want to increase the percentage of their GDP that they invest in their military, it's still not going to be that much, because let's say, for example, you increase your military spending from 1% of your GDP to 4% of your GDP. Your GDP is like nothing compared to America's GDP. So that's still not going to be that big of a deal, right? So America still needs its allies, obviously. You always do. Like we live in the whole world is connected, but not as much as before. Not as much as the gap is bigger. The gap is bigger, and it's getting. I mean, I just saw on the news that France is trying to ban U.S. technology. They're banning Twitter. They're banning Zoom. They want to have their own. So their solution to having not enough powerful tech companies is to ban American tech companies. Like, when has that ever worked? Like, oh yeah, more government involvement. I'm sure that has worked out so far for you guys. I'm sure that's exactly how you're going to be solving this situation of falling behind the rest of the world, falling behind United States and China. I'm sure that's going to work out for you. So I think they're not going to wise up. The gap is going to become bigger and bigger, and given that America is not going to be relying on them for enforcing the world order that we are in, then the UN model is going to become more and more outdated. We're going to need a new framework with more American dominance, which is more of what America wants. When Trump created that peace board, I think that's a competition against the UN, isn't that? You guys know what I'm talking about. The
Yeah,
peace.
I know, and I don't believe it's a
Board of
competition.
Peace.
Yeah, but I
Look
don't
at
want
the
Turkey on board of peace. Like, no.
look at
I'm not
the
saying that's a good model. I'm just saying it's
participants.
the first attempt.
All right,
Yeah.
because the participants are a joke. Like you have Viktor Orban, the prime of Hungary. Who the fuck is this? It looks like the elephant from from the Ice Age. Like
Yeah, I'm not saying this is a
complete
good
bullshit.
attempt. This is a. I'm saying this is not. I'm not suggesting that the Board of Peace is a good attempt. I'm just saying it's just a demonstration that
Yeah,
America is trying to move away from the UN. And by the way, just look at the logo. It's very similar. The Board of Peace logo is very similar to the UN logo, with the difference is that the UN logo has the entire world in it, but the Board of Peace logo is basically focusing on America. You
yeah.
can't see the
A
rest
lot
of the
of
world.
lot of
The logo shows that this is a competition. I don't know, but yeah, go on.
and lot of gold.
Yes, a lot of gold. Yeah, right. Right, and hopefully less raping. Hopefully less raping than the UN. But I don't know. We'll see. But it's interesting because the United Nations started with its first mission was about Israel and so-called Palestine, and the Board of Peace's first mission was also Gaza. So that's a their genesis, like their start was also the same. But yeah, go on, Danny. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to call time because it's been about 21
Oh yeah.
minutes, and I
Okay.
think
Okay.
that was technically Francesco's turn, and Daniel Dome is actually next.
I don't know. Like I thought Francesco was talking already, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yes.
wanted to let other people speak. That's why I raise again my hand.
Oh, okay. So I won't. Okay. So yeah, Daniel Dome is next on the list.
Okay, so Armin, a question to you: what's going on with the Iranian reporters who are outside of Iran that work maybe on the BBC, maybe on the Voice of America? Because I understand that they are getting threats from IRGC that they will harm their families in Iran.
Yeah, I mean the reporters that get threatened the most are from Iran International. Some reporters from other places have been threatened as well, but it's mostly Iran International. And the Islamic Republic hates the Iran International more than any other group. So, for people who don't know, we're talking about Persian speaking news media outside of Iran, right? And we have Iran International, we have Manoto, we have BBC Persian, we have Radio Farda, and we have Voice of America, we have Iran Wire. What else do we have? These are the ones that come to my mind, right? And the one with the highest views by Iranians, both inside and outside of Iran, is Iran International. We also have the Islamic Republic's own propaganda channel. What was that called? Press TV. And then inside Iran, we have the Islamic Republic's media, which is called Sada Sima, right? Iran International has been the most effective one, even though there are some problems with them. And that's why the Islamic Republic is very, very like they actually attacked one of the reporters was actually injured with knives, right? Like he has to be hospitalized, right? And two other reporters were there was a plot to kill them. So yeah, this is a serious issue, but I think this is a good opportunity for people to also know the different Persian speaking media out there and the positives and negatives with each one of them. So the one that Iranians hate the most is BBC Persian. They really, really hate BBC Persian, right? So much so that they call it Ayatollah BBC. And they're justified because a lot of people who work at BBC Persian, they're reformers, like they have reformist leaning, which means that they basically support the Islamic Republic, right? So reformers are like the Islamic Republic is hardliners and reformers are pro-Islamic Republic. So the fact that the people who work at the BBC have reformist leaning means that the BBC is technically a propaganda arm for the Islamic Republic. Go on, Daniel. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask actually in the chat. Danny asked also, like you and Goldie and Tusi. All right, Tusi, I know his father in Iran, but like you and Goldie, don't you get threatened?
Well, before I get to that, let me finish the list of the different media, and then we'll get to that, right? So when it comes to Voice of America, right now the person who's working there is Ali Javan Mahdi, which is basically a Kurdish separatist, extremely anti-Pahlavi, and he basically has banned the mention of Pahlavi on Voice of America in Persian, which is insanity. Like you cannot even speak against it. You cannot mention it's like you cannot say and this is American taxpayers pay for Voice of America. This is a government funded news agency, and they have banned the mention of the word Pahlavi because the person who is in charge there is a Kurdish separatist, right? So Voice of America is funded by American taxpayer money. BBC Persian is funded by UK taxpayer money, and one of them is anti-Pahlavi, the other one is pro-Islamic Republic. So that's insane. So Manitou is pro-Pahlavi. However, they ran out of funding and they have turned more into like a podcast channel rather than a news agency because they don't have the resources anymore to continue. They don't have like a government funding them. Iran International is funded by Saudi Arabia. This is why a lot of people, even though they have the biggest audience, a lot of people are, don't trust them because they're funded by Saudi Arabia. However, we use them, and at the end of the day, to get the highest amount of views, you have to report accurately, and you cannot report in a way that Iranian people will get too angry, or else you will lose all your audience. So, because they need to maintain their viewership, they do the best at fact checking, and they also completely cover Pahlavi support. They don't hide it, so they are beneficial. But we also do notice that they have an agenda to introduce other leaders in competition with Pahlavi. They used to support the MEK. They continue to speak positively, like give platform and advertise, Kurdish separatist leaders and Hamid Ismailion. Whenever we see that, we call their BS, and we are very skeptical of them. But we know that because they have done the best in when it comes to having a presence and having the highest views, we cannot ignore them and we use them. And Princess of Pahlavi himself has used them as well. So we're just following his model. Manoto, unfortunately, even though they are the best, they were the most pro Pahlavi, they have had a couple of blunders. More recently, for example, they came out and blamed the United States and Israel for not helping the Iranian people sooner. And they said, don't take out American flags and Israeli flags with you into the protest, which Iranian people ignored. You can see that the Iranians still bring American and Israeli flags with them. And that recommendation was basically in contradiction to Princess of Pahlavi's call to action. But more recently, a lot of people are angry with Manitou because they just came up with the most insane recommendation for Iranians inside Iran to support the revolution by having black ribbons with them, which will basically makes them identifiable. But the regime and a lot of people are like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, are you insane? This is retarded." But they're not backing down; they're doubling down, which is like, so a lot of people are basically are angry with Manator right now. So this is basically a summary of the media landscape, the Persian media landscape right now outside of Iran. So what was your other question?
It was about the families, like even if you can tell, like on yourself, on Goldie, on other people, like, are you getting threatened? And I don't know, just
So I
raise a
think
weakness.
I'm thinking about that right now, and I think it's better not to touch on that. I think for security reasons, it's better not to touch on it. I think, yeah.
Well,
So I'm just gonna think like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that. Yeah. If that. I hope you guys understand. Yeah. Sorry
yeah,
about
I
that. Yeah,
completely understood. And I just wanted to add that it's heartwarming to watch the protests in all over the Europe where Iranians go with the Iranian flags, Israeli flags, and like do super cool stuff. Just watching those is completely
Absolutely.
different from those assholes Palestinians, like and like you do cool stuff.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate that. That's sweet. All right.
Did Adam quickly want to say something about this, or
Yeah, quick comment. Just because there's a more minor example that I do feel I can comment on, which is that my own Facebook went down at the same time as the internet in Iran. It was right after I put out the article, "Listen to Goldie Gamari," my account goes down. But I'm not afraid, and just to the person who was asking, I have a life policy of never let fear control you and don't negotiate with terrorists. So there's no other way to proceed, really.
All right. So next on the list, I have Dajjal.
Dajjal. Guys, by the way, more people, if you want to raise your hand, again, the smiley button at the bottom of your screen, if you click on it, you could click on the raise hand icon, and that's how you speak. Okay, Dajjal.
Hey, what's up, guys? I know you said you didn't want to talk about your threats, Armin, but should we be concerned, or is everything okay?
If I don't show up to these meetings, be very concerned. But if I'm here, it's good. But if you one day like if a few days you come here and you don't see me coming, then call the cops or something.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, as far as the international world order goes, what you said about China, yeah, they want to reap the benefits of it, but when we do something and we step out of line, they want us to be the good guys and stop doing what we're doing. And you'll notice a lot of people do that, especially with Trump. Whenever he does something that they consider to be coloring outside the lines, especially if it's explicitly pro-American, they will condemn it and say, no, this isn't what America does. We're the good guys. We don't do that. It's something that's been going on a long time that other countries and people who just frankly don't like America do to hold us back. It's just a trick, but Trump seems to be falling less for it now. As far as the United Nations itself goes, Churchill himself warned against its formation. He knew that Stalin was going to use it to manipulate Roosevelt. And Stalin was a big supporter of the United Nations because he knew that given its structure, let's just say he used it to his advantage to exploit it because the way it's set up, every independent republic of the USSR got a vote in the UN, which basically stacked the deck in the Soviet Union's favor and actually allowed them multiple votes, whereas they really should have just gotten one. Churchill saw that coming and he warned against it. And so it was basically a Soviet institution from day one. And of course, it's an institution that has people like Iran, like Islamic Republic, rather, on the so-called Human Rights Council. It's a fucking joke. It always has been. It's always held America back. It's time to get rid of it and move on.
Okay. All right, Danny, who's next?
Next, I have Elad.
Elad. Thank you, Dajjal.
Hey.
Oh, hi, Elad.
So I wanted to ask about the revisionism and how the Pahlavi and his team, like Nufdi and everyone else, is not really pushing back right now. And I understand that they don't push back because right now they need whatever platform they can, and they can't really say like, "Oh, you took part of this, right? You were all complicit."
Wait, which type
Um,
of revisionism? What revisionism are you talking about?
Everything that happened with the toppling of the Shah and
Oh.
before that with Mossadegh and all that.
All right, so
So
you're saying that why? So let me actually give
no,
context.
no, I'm not asking. No. I haven't finished. So I understand why
No,
they're
but
pushing back
I know
right.
I haven't finished. I just want to give context to people so they know what you're talking about. So
Okay,
Nufti
okay,
is an organization that is basically Princess of Pahlavi has created. He is basically Princess of Pahlavi's team, and Elad is talking about the fact that other people are basically doing historic revisionism regarding what happened in the 1979 Islamic Revolution and Mossadegh's coup d'etat against the Shah. They're basically misinforming people, and Nufti is not pushing back. That's what you're talking about, right, Elad?
yes,
Did I?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
go on. Yep.
So I understand why they don't push back right now because right now you have to stay focused on the mission and all that. But do you think after it's all over, you know, God willing, as soon as possible, that they will start pushing back? And if so, how will it affect everything else? Because we have like a spider web of lies that happened all over the Middle East, and it all starts with like toppling the Shah and really creating this awful regime.
Right. So I think this is more our responsibility than anything surrounding Princess of Pahlavi. And I think that Princess of Pahlavi has done a really good job in not falling for that trap. So in front of him, for example, they ask like, "Oh, how do you know that this is not going to become tyrannical like your father's time?" Right? And that's a trap because if he starts defending his father's record, then he's not going to be talking about what he's going to be doing, and he's going to be wasting those interviews and wasting his time and energy because he needs to be talking about the future and what he's going to be doing, right? I
Of
think
course,
this is our job. This is our job to defend Muhammad Reza Shah and Reza Shah. And I think Princess of Pahlavi and his team and his organization need to be focusing right now. I mean, so I'll answer your question regarding after as well. They need to be focusing on what the prince is going to be doing and what his organization is going to be doing. When it comes to the after the Islamic Republic, that I'm pretty sure that we like I think we're going to our future government is going to have like a cultural ministry. I think our cultural minister and our education minister are going to be on it when it comes to building museums and education centers and cultural centers and a curriculum where we teach. So we're going to have that in our school books, right? We're going to have the proper, we're going to have the real history be taught in like elementary school. So I think we're going to go way beyond just answering reporters. I think we're going to basically, you know, how Jews basically spent after World War II, they have Holocaust museums all around the world. So I'm pretty sure like we want to do something like that when it comes to educating our population and the rest of the world regarding our history. We want to, especially given the massacre that happened in Iran, we have to be doing something similar when it comes to education and telling the whole world about Iran's true history. So yeah, this is going to be a major project of major parts of the executive branch of our government. There needs to be a budget dedicated to this, setting the record straight and educating people about the true history of Iran, not just the 1979 revolution, but all our history and our kings and Cyrus. We don't like the idea that people talk about Alexander the Great, but they don't talk about Cyrus the Great. We want to outshine Alexander the Great. We want to make sure Cyrus the Great is known as the king of all kings all around the world. We're going to be making movies, we're going to be making animations and everything. So yeah, that's going to be many major projects about this.
Yeah, don't call him Cyrus the Great. Call him Cyrus the Greatest.
And call him by his real name, not the Greek one.
We need to use words that other people understand, right? So yeah, we call him Kurosh, but if we say Kurosh, like English-speaking people
We'd
will not be able to.
understand you. We'd
Yes.
understand
So
you.
in Israel we say Kurosh, in Iran we say Kurosh, in Israel we say Kurosh, but in America we have to say Cyrus.
Right. So what I wanted to understand is how do you think this is going to affect all the countries that were actually complicit in the West and the Palestinian lies, because it's all connected.
Would there be anything left of Palestinians after the Islamic Republic is over? Would there even be
That's what I'm asking.
Would there even be a Palestinian movement left? I don't know. So, okay. I mean, I'm being optimistic, but yeah. Guys, like you have, like I hope,
like
I know, but yeah, there will be some remaining, but you guys, like, I hope Israelis here appreciate what a big blow.
I mean, they thought that about the Soviet Union falling, and it didn't.
And they were right. It did. It did. Communism now and communism then is night and day. Communism then was a global superpower. The Soviet Union falling didn't have any impact on communism.
I was talking about like Palestinian cause.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just like the fall of Nazis didn't end Nazism, but it really damaged Nazism. Like Nazism today is like 1% of what it used to be. Like the fall of the Soviet Union, communism today is a joke compared to the influence of communism at the time of Mao and Stalin. So in the same way, yes, sure, the Islamic Republic falling is not going to end all of this completely, but whatever remains is going to be a joke compared to when they had a state sponsor of terror supporting them, right? It's going to be a joke. I mean, it's not going to completely eradicate them, but it's going to be a major blow, right?
But do you think the cover-up will be like finally, because it's like the biggest cover-up of the century, everything that happened in Iran, right? Because like world, so many powers were involved in it, right? And it was about oil, and now they're saying it's only about oil, but it's way more complicated than that. But how do you think it's going to affect this, right?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question. I don't understand your question. Can you explain?
This dynamics that the West has with our region, really. Because the way things happened was very imperial, right? It was the powers at be that came and really installed a different regime.
You mean the Islamic Republic coming in power was an imperialist project by the West? Is that what you're saying?
It wasn't just the West, of course, but it was Britain and the US was complicit in it, and of course Russia behind the wheels. So
all of these countries, I think all of these countries were at fault, but I wouldn't call it like a imperialist. I think the part of it that was imperialist was the Soviets earlier, and this is just the ripple effects of what the Soviets were trying to do in Iran, right? And the Americans just basically stopped backing the Shah. It's not like they came and installed the mullahs. It's basically they stopped supporting their allies and just let the mullahs basically do what they want. So it's not like they just installed. I mean, I still blame them.
But the French kind of did.
I mean, they supported Khomeini, but it wasn't like this was a project of them, right? It wasn't like, but again, I don't want to defend. I don't want to sound, because I blame them, but to a lot of people, this might come as me defending them. So I'm going to stop. But it's different from I mean, they're at fault, but it's not imperialism. So the part that is imperialism is the Soviets were trying to come and take over major parts of Iran. They basically described it as an apple that is ready to basically bite into, right? And they were spreading communism in Iran. And I think the Islamic takeover of Iran is just all of the ripple effects from what the Soviets were trying to do in Iran, the remaining ripple effects, right? And a lot of people might blame Mohammad Reza Shah for not resisting the mullahs even harder. But I honestly think that Muhammad Reza Shah and Reza Shah did a miracle to even for us to even have anything of Iran left. Like Iran was stuck between superpowers, like at that point of time, and we had the Nazis, we had the Americans, we had the Soviets, and we were just stuck right there in the middle. And the British, we had the British, and we were just stuck right there in the middle, and everybody was just basically using Iran like as a highway even before they realized like even before the oil thing, like the World War I, World War II, Iran was just like a highway that they just came and did whatever they want in there. And these were just elephants that we were just under their feet being cried. Our country was taken to the edge of collapse. The fact that the Iran even remained is like a miracle. And I think the damage that the Soviets inflicted upon Iran was so high that even though Pahlavis managed to, with the level of education, modernization, industrial development, and cultural improvement and economic growth that they brought, I mean, at that point, they managed to create a situation that even though eventually what the Soviets did resulted in the Islamic Revolution of 1979, and people didn't see that coming, but now in hindsight, you could see that it was inevitable. But the Iranian people experienced something under the Pahlavis that made it impossible for the Islamic rule to hold on Iran forever, right? So I consider what the Pahlavis did was they planted a seed, and after the removal, the seed didn't grow into a tree while they were alive, but now you see the results of it after they're gone. And when people blame the Pahlavis for not crushing the protesters, the rioters in 1979, when they're blaming Muhammad Reza Shah for not doing that, I think they don't understand that if he came down and brutally crushed that revolution, that tree would have never grown. And that revolution was unavoidable because of what the Soviets left inside Iran. The commies and basically the unity behind the commies and the Islamists, and the fact that what Muhammad Reza Shah was doing was not yet understood or supported in the degree that it should have been by the population, meant that that would eventually lead into a revolution that if you wanted to stop it, you would have been destroying a longer term project. And even though in the past 47 years we paid a very heavy price with Islamic rule, I think if you look back at this, like zoom out and look at the 500-year result of it, you will see that the 47-year price that we paid was necessary for what eventually came after. Like, we Iranians are considered modern people with classical liberal views for democracy and secularism and the rule of law and patriotic. And if we didn't have the Pahlavis, we could have been closer in attitude to people like in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So, and if Muhammad Reza Shah crushed the revolution, we would have never understood what Pahlavi was trying to do, and we would have never been supporting it to the degree that we are right now. So that's why I think that the imperialist project that started all of this was the Russian imperial project, and it was such a big bomb that we didn't notice how big of a damage that was, because Muhammad Reza Shah was improving Iran so much, but the ripple effect of it caused the Islamic Revolution.
Do you think if the king had just totally crushed it the way Savak told him to, do you think the Iranian people would have turned against him en masse?
I don't know if that would have happened, but I know that they wouldn't be so pro Pahlavi today. You know what I mean? It would.
Yeah.
I think that people are shouting Javid Shah more than they would have during the Shah's time right now, because the Iranian people now are finally as mature and understanding as the Shah was 47 years ago.
Yes.
But to be able to get to this level of understanding, they had to experience what not having Pahlavi is like.
But if he had just totally crushed him the way he was advised to do, there's a lot of people who wouldn't have suffered at the hands of the Islamic Republic, and they would have been saved. And if you had to deal with a population that didn't like what he did, who thought he was mean, or he killed the mullahs, that's horrible. Like maybe that's just something you would have had to deal with. And if you had that, maybe over the course of 50 years, I think you could have overcome that if he had done that. I really do.
I don't
I'm
know.
just saying.
I think that Iranian people think about the past 47 years as the most expensive education that we had to pay for. It was very, very expensive. But I think that this is why the Iranian people want freedom and secularism and the rule of law and patriotic views more than many people around the world. And I think what we gained from this and anti-Islamic views, I value that as well. I think short term the cost was very high, but I think over the long term, what we gained from this 47 years might have been even higher than what we lost over the long term.